Did the ancient Greeks discover the hidden powers of mind-altering substances? Did they harness poisons and potions that shattered reality itself? Did they use hallucinogens to speak directly with the gods and glimpse the hidden worlds beyond our own? The ancients understood something we've long forgotten. What we call hallucination, they called communion. Through toxin and trance, they tore open the boundaries of perception, stepping into realms where gods, spirits, and unseen intelligences whispered the architecture of reality itself. And at the heart of these forbidden rites were not scholars or priests, but children. Barefoot girls raised in stone temples fed poisons in sacred doses until their veins sang with both death and revelation. They became vessels, mouthpieces of the divine and the damned. This is the truth buried beneath centuries of revision and pious denial. The greatest prophets of the ancient world were not wise men or saints. They were living conduits, sacrificial oracles, trained to dissolve the barrier between flesh and eternity. Amon Hillman's Original Sin resurrects this lost heresy, the idea that consciousness itself was once a weapon, forged in ritual, venom, and blood. It is undeniable that some mysterious creator-like force wove these mind-altering compounds into the fabric of nature itself, hiding them in roots, herbs, and venom for humanity to one day uncover. They are not accidents, they are nature's alchemy, crafted to expand consciousness and guide humanity toward higher unseen realms of the spirit. What hidden intelligence would lace the earth with mind-altering compounds, embedding them in roots, vines, and venom? Only a force ancient enough to understand the circuitry of consciousness itself. A presence that seeded the planet not just with life, but with the tools to awaken it. An intelligence that encoded revelation into biology, ensuring that one day we'd eat, drink, or smoke our way back to the gods who made us. Dr. Amon Hillman is one of the rare scholars today who can read the ancient Greek texts in their full depth. Not just the language, but the hidden codes woven within. His translations unearthed what others refused to touch. Records of staggering ritual intoxication. Entire temples turned into laboratories of the mind, where priests and oracles consumed potions so potent, they blurred the line between human and God. Hillman's forbidden book, The Original Sin, claims the oracles of Greece were not holy mystics at all, but engineered conduits. Women transformed through trance, toxin, and ritual to pierce the veil. And what they saw wasn't metaphor, it was the machinery of gods, vast, luminous intelligences staring back from the dark. From Delphi to Dodona, families gave up their daughters before they could even speak. Temple orders raised them in silence and rhythm, teaching song, poetry, and controlled ecstasy. When puberty arrived, the moment when the soul could still cross between worlds, they were given the pharmacon, the poison that opened the unseen. This was no harmless incense. Hillman writes it was a deadly nightshade compound, henbane, belladonna, mandrake, blended with serpent's blood. To the modern eye, it's madness. To the ancients, it was divine technology. Unlike psilocybin or ayahuasca, which dissolved the self into light, the tropane alkaloids of nightshade didn't unite you with the cosmos. They opened the door, and something else walked in. The oracles didn't imagine gods, they encountered them. Convulsions, cries, voices speaking through trembling lips, each girl became a living transmitter, her words decoded by male priests into law, prophecy, and empire. Guarding the oracles were elite temple sisterhoods. The dragons of Delphi, sworn to Apollo, the furies of Hecate, masters of shadow and vengeance. and the wolves of Dionysus, immersed in ecstatic frenzy. From childhood, these girls were trained in both ritual and survival, fed microdoses of venom until their bodies became living antidotes. Their blood contained both poison and cure, and in battle or ritual, they could strike with arrows coated in viper venom, lethal instruments of divine authority. The Furies were nightmares draped in ritual silk, their lips murmuring ancient curses between breaths. They did not simply punish, they unmade. When summoned, the air itself recoiled, thick with the scent of iron and incense. Their presence shattered deceit. Oathbreakers would vomit truth, and cowards would claw at their own eyes to escape the visions they invoked. Legends said their screams could split the soul from the body, leaving only a husk writhing in repentance. The dragons of Delphi were their opposite and equal, serpent-blooded oracles who embodied Apollo's light and his cruelty in perfect balance. Their movements were calculated, sacred, and terrifyingly precise. They read destinies in coils of smoke, blood patterns on marble floors, or the flicker of flame across gold. Their skin, marked with scales of ritual scarification, glimmered in torchlight like living armor. Each carried a blade anointed in temple venom, capable of sending kings to their gods with a single touch. To see the dragons gather was to witness divinity unbound. Discipline fused with madness, enlightenment braided with death. Together, the Furies and dragons stood as the twin edges of divine justice, one consuming sin in fire and scream, the other delivering fate in silence and precision. To face them was not to fight, but to be judged. In an age before codified courts or king's decrees, a trembling girl in trance could issue rulings that toppled leaders, dictated war, or judged entire cities. Her words were not suggestions. They were binding law. Her visions shaped reality itself, and the priests who interpreted them executed her will with absolute obedience. To the Greeks, pharmakia meant both medicine and magic, cure and curse. The temple women were chemists before chemistry existed. They were the original architects of consciousness, mastering formulas that modern science is only now beginning to uncover. When Christianity rose, it branded them witches, burned their libraries, and buried their knowledge under guilt and superstition. But fragments survived, hidden in alchemy, herbalism, and the roots of modern medicine. Dr. Hillman writes that these girls weren't victims of ignorance. They were engineers of ecstasy, deliberate alchemists of mind and body. They learned to manipulate rhythm, breath, and vibration so precisely that their hearts, lungs, and vocal cords became instruments for summoning visions. Music, chanting, and even specific postures were not decoration. They were technologies of trance, designed to open neural pathways and pierce the veil between the human and the divine. Their so-called original sin, it wasn't rebellion, it was experimentation. They tested the limits of plants like belladonna, mandrake, and henbane, sometimes combining them with serpent venom to see what the mind could perceive. Hillman points to examples in the Delphic rituals where girls inhaled vapors from the chasm beneath the temple while consuming the sacred drinks, producing convulsions, ecstatic cries, and visions of luminous figures or serpentine beings. In these states, they didn't hallucinate, they interacted with entities the ancients called gods. In the temples of ancient Greece, initiates were deliberately brought to the edge of death. Mystery cults, especially those devoted to Dionysus, used belladonna, mandrake, and henbane not as recreational drugs, but as tools to push the mind and body into extreme states. These substances induced convulsions, hallucinations, and near-death experiences. Hillman emphasizes that this was not random intoxication. These rituals were precise and calculated, combining pharmacology, breath control, and rhythm to break ordinary perception. The goal was to dissolve the limits of the self and access higher spiritual realms. Every dose, every tremor, every convulsion was a controlled experiment in consciousness. These practices were early psychonautics, testing the boundaries between life and death, human and divine. The initiates' minds became instruments, tuned to perceive forces far beyond ordinary reality. Hillman argues that this deliberate use of poison and trance was a form of knowledge, dangerous, potent, and largely lost to history. The courage wasn't in defiance, it was in curiosity. The audacity to take nature's deadliest compounds, bend them to their will, and claim knowledge from a realm far beyond ordinary human understanding. Their art was not performance, it was discovery, a dangerous and brilliant science of consciousness. Maybe the gods they spoke to were never distant rulers, but guides leaving subtle breadcrumbs for those who could follow. The oracles, the most advanced seekers of spirit, learned to listen, and in the tremors of intoxication, the gods revealed a secret. That nature itself was the key, that every root, herb, and venom held a map to the hidden forces shaping the universe. To decipher these signs was to glimpse the architecture of the divine, and that knowledge was power enough to shape empires. The oracles remind us that every age hides its forbidden sciences. What they once called divine possession, we now dissect as neurochemistry. But both describe the same doorway in the mind. The ancients didn't stumble into trance by accident. They followed clues left in nature itself. Something, or someone, seeded the earth with compounds meant to unlock perception, to lure humanity toward contact with the unseen. What they called prophecy was a map encoded in biology, pointing to realms beyond the senses. Even today, that doorway remains, paper thin between science and the divine. And what else lies hidden in nature, waiting for us to uncover it? What secrets did the ancients touch that we have yet to remember? As we continue to rediscover the knowledge they carried, who knows what doors we will open and what worlds we'll step through?